On Sunday afternoon, I stare at the scratches on my parents' kitchen table, tracing my finger along a particularly deep groove I remember making when I was 12. The wood feels warm and familiar beneath my touch, worn smooth by years of family dinners, homework sessions, and uncomfortable conversations, just like this one. $25,000. All of it. Mom's voice slices through the room. She sits directly across from me, her back rigid against the chair, her eyes fixed on my face with an intensity that makes my stomach clench. Barbara stands behind her, arms folded across her chest, wearing what I've come to recognize as her concerned big sister expression, the one she practices in mirrors when she thinks no one is looking. Dad stares at his folded hands, his wedding ring glinting dully in the afternoon light filtering through the kitchen window. He won't look at me. He hasn't since I walked through the door 30 minutes ago for what they called a family meeting. My heart pounds against my ribs as the realization hits me. This isn't a meeting. It's an ambush. It's a family venture. Mom continues, her voice taking on that rehearsed enthusiasm she uses when she's trying to sell something. A real opportunity that could change everything for all of us. Barbara nods, right on cue. We've been planning this for months, Aspen. And we thought, wouldn't it be nice to finally include my little sister? She smiles, showing too many teeth. You're always saying you want to be more involved in family decisions. I swallow hard, trying to process what they're asking. The money they're referring to took me 5 years of double shifts and careful budgeting to save. 5 years of saying no to vacations, new clothes, even dinner with coworkers. So I provide all the money, I say slowly. And you, handle everything else? Mom waves her hand dismissively. We have the connections, the business experience. You've always been better with, well, following directions. She laughs lightly, as if she's paid me a compliment. And I would get a percentage, Barbara jumps in. Obviously smaller than ours since we're doing all the work, but still. The unspoken threat hangs heavy in the air between us. After everything we've done for you, I feel the weight of their expectations pressing against my chest, making it hard to breathe. But underneath, something else stirs, something that wasn't there a month ago. A month ago. Before Aunt Margaret's unexpected visit. I remember standing in my tiny apartment kitchen, washing dishes while Aunt Margaret dried them. Her voice dropped to a whisper, even though we were alone. There's something you need to know about why your mother calls you the mistake. The memory of her words burns in my chest. How Mom had been preparing for her big career break when she found out she was pregnant with me. How she blamed her subsequent business failures on having to rush back to work. How I became the living embodiment of her resentment. Your whole life, Aunt Margaret had said, drying a plate with slow, careful movements. She's been making you pay for something that was never your fault. I return to the present moment, aware that my unusual silence has created a new tension in the room. Normally, I would be nodding, agreeing, promising to help however I could. But today, I simply sit, neither agreeing nor refusing. When would you need the money? I ask quietly. Mom and Barbara exchange glances, a quick flash of victory passing between them. They think they have me. They always have before. In 3 weeks, Mom says, reaching for her phone. I can give you the account information right now. Only Dad seems to notice something has changed. He glances up briefly, his eyes meeting mine for the first time since I arrived. I see a flicker of something. Sadness? Recognition? Whatever it is, it vanishes as quickly as it appeared, as he returns to studying his hands. I nod slowly, buying time. I'll need to check my accounts, I say, surprising myself with how steady my voice sounds. Make sure everything is accessible. Again. Barbara smiles triumphantly at Mom. See? I told you she'd understand. Family first, right, Aspen? Family first. How many times have they used those words to empty my bank account, to consume my weekends, to justify every sacrifice they've demanded? But as I sit at this familiar table, feeling the weight of their expectations, I realize something has shifted inside me. The money they want represents more than just dollars. It's my freedom. My future. The life I've been too afraid to claim. And for the first time, I'm not sure I'm willing to give it up. 2 days later, on Tuesday at my apartment, the memory of my 18th birthday resurfaces as I sit at my kitchen table, staring at the checkbook balanced precariously on my knee. My phone screen glows with Mom's latest text. Don't forget your contribution this month. Rent's due Friday. Instead of a birthday cake that day, Mom had slid a handwritten invoice across our kitchen table. Now that you're an adult, she'd said, her lips curving into what passed for a smile. It's time you contributed to the household expenses. Dad had examined his coffee mug while Barbara smirked from behind her textbook. I'd stared at the number $250, nearly half my part-time paycheck from the grocery store. When I asked if this meant I could skip my weekend shifts helping at Mom's failing boutique, her eyes had hardened. If it weren't for you, we wouldn't have been financially ruined in the first place. 10 years later, that contribution has grown to $350 monthly, not counting the emergencies that seem to arise whenever my bank account shows signs of health. My apartment keys jangle against the worn laminate of my kitchen table. The place is tiny, a converted garage I share with a nursing student I barely see. The commute to work takes an hour each way, but the rent is cheap enough that I can save a little each month, even after Mom's payments. I open my journal, the pages soft from handling. 10 years of entries chronicle the same pattern: excitement when my paycheck arrives, calculations of how much I can squirrel away, and then the inevitable call or text from Mom demanding money for some crisis. March 4th, first raise at work, an extra $175 a month. Maybe I can finally save for a decent car. March 7th, Mom called. Barbara needs dental work. There goes my car fund. August 15th, 5 years of saving, $25,000 hidden away. Nobody knows but me. The last entry makes my chest tighten with both pride and fear. 5 years of double shifts at the administrative job I was lucky to land after community college. 5 years of weekend work at Rosie's Diner, serving breakfast to truckers and local families. 5 years of saying, I can't afford it, to coworkers' invitations, of calculating the cost of every grocery item, of patching clothes instead of replacing them. 5 years of careful deception, letting Mom believe I'm barely scraping by. My phone lights up with another text. Barbara this time. Mom says you're being difficult about the monthly contribution. After everything they've done for you? I set the phone down without answering. Barbara learned early to align herself with Mom. The golden child was named for our grandmother, while I was carelessly named after the Colorado town where Mom went into premature labor during a business trip. We couldn't think of anything else. Mom had explained when I asked about my name as a child. We were too stressed with the medical bills. The unspoken addition, the medical bills you caused. The phone buzzes again. Dad this time, a rare text. Your mother's upset. Can you just send the money? I close my eyes, remembering the countless times Dad has witnessed Mom's financial demands without intervening. His weakness is its own form of cruelty. Aspen, you home? My neighbor Ryan's voice carries through the thin door, followed by a gentle knock. I tuck the journal away before opening the door. Ryan stands there with a plate of cookies, steam still rising from them. Made too many, he says with a shrug that doesn't quite hide his concern. He's noticed the shadows under my eyes, the extra shifts. Thanks. I take the plate, struck again by the strangeness of genuine kindness with no strings attached. Ryan's family calls him every Sunday, but just to check in, not to demand money or favors. I've overheard his warm conversations through our shared wall, so different from the tense negotiations that constitute my family communications. You okay? He asks, lingering in the doorway. You look tired. Before I can answer, my phone rings. It's Diane from the office, the older woman who trained me when I first started, and now treats me with a maternal concern that still feels foreign. I should take this, I tell Ryan. He nods and leaves with a small wave. Aspen? It's Diane. Her voice carries its usual warmth. I noticed you've been working through lunch again. I hope you are okay. You don't look okay at all. Something catches in my throat. These small kindnesses, Ryan's cookies, Diane's concern, highlight the stark difference between how my family treats me and how the rest of the world does. I think about the $25,000 sitting in my savings account. The money represents more than just dollars. It's 5 years of sacrifice, yes, but also 5 years of hope. Hope for something more than this endless cycle of obligation and guilt. Mom's latest demand for the entire amount isn't just about money, it's about control. About keeping me tethered to the role of family scapegoat. My journal lies on the table, filled with years of entries that document my gradual erosion. But the most recent page remains blank, waiting for a new chapter. For the first time, I consider writing something different. Next day, on Wednesday, I slip my time-off request across Diane's desk, holding my breath. My supervisor glances up from her computer, reading glasses perched on the end of her nose. A personal day? You haven't taken one in. She taps at her keyboard, eyebrows rising. 2 years? Good heavens, Aspen. I know. I fidget with my cardigan sleeve. Is it okay? I wouldn't ask if. Take 2. Diane signs the form with a flourish. Doctor's appointment? Something like that, I murmured, not quite meeting her eyes. Whatever it is, I hope it brings you some peace. She hands back the approved form, her expression softening. You look like you could use it. Peace. What a foreign concept. Later that day, I sat in the public library, 3 towns over, hunched over a borrowed computer. No family members would think to look for me here. The fluorescent lights hum overhead as I methodically research apartments in Bellingham, a city nearly 1,500 miles and 3 states away from everything I've ever known. Something unfamiliar flutters in my chest as I scroll through listings. Hope, maybe, or terror disguised as excitement. I write down the contact information for 3 properties within my budget. The realization that I can afford my own place, a real place, not the cramped room I share with 2 other women, still feels like a revelation. 5 years of double shifts and saying no to every small luxury has built a nest egg my family would devour in an instant if I let them. Not this time. The following day, on Thursday, I slipped into Riverdale Credit Union, wearing sunglasses and a baseball cap borrowed from Ryan, my neighbor. Inside, a young banker named Tess helps me open an account with my ID and a cashier's check for half my savings. No family member as a joint owner. No shared access. Just mine. Your signature looks different here than on your ID. Tess comments, sliding the paperwork back. I'm working on that, I say, and realize I mean it in more ways than one. That weekend, while Mom drags Dad and Barbara to Aunt Joanne's baby shower, I use my emergency key to enter their house. I still did not send them money for rent. The familiar scent of Mom's gardenia candles wraps around me like an accusation as I slip upstairs to the attic. My throat tightens when I spot the faded blue bin labeled Aspen Documents in Dad's careful handwriting. Inside lies the paper trail of my existence: birth certificate, social security card, vaccination records, high school diploma. I'd asked for these dozens of times over the years. They're safer here, Mom always insisted. You'd just lose them. I clutch the folder to my chest, surprised by how light it feels, the entire official record of my 28 years on Earth, weighing less than a sandwich. That evening, I sat on a park bench with a spiral notebook, watching ducks glide across the pond. The sun warms my face as I begin a list titled, Things I Have Survived. My pen moves steadily across the page. Mom's coldness, Barbara's cruelty, Dad's silence. The constant draining of my bank account. The subtle reminders that I wasn't wanted. The not-so-subtle reminders that I owed them for the inconvenience of my existence. When I reach the bottom of the page, I stare at the final item. Being called a mistake my entire life. I tear out the page and fold it carefully into my wallet. Whatever happens next, I've already endured the worst they could do to me. The thought settles in my chest like a stone, solid and strangely comforting. I am not a mistake, I whisper to the ducks. One of them quacks back, and I find myself smiling, actually smiling for what feels like the first time in years. Sunday dinner arrives with its usual parade of passive-aggressive comments and loaded silences. I take my customary seat at the kitchen table, the same table where they ambushed me with their demand for my savings. Mom serves pot roast, her specialty, saved for when she wants something. So, she says, slicing the meat with surgical precision, have you made a decision about our family venture? I take a small bite, chewing slowly. I'm still considering it. Barbara snorts. What's there to consider? It's a no-brainer. I'd like to see the business plan, I say, surprising myself with how steady my voice sounds. The market analysis, projected returns, that sort of thing. Mom's knife clatters against her plate. We don't need all that paperwork. This is family, not some corporate deal. Actually, Barbara interjects, leaning forward, we were thinking we could simplify things. We could become signatories on your accounts, just to help manage everything more efficiently. Dad clears his throat. Maybe we should give Aspen time to think about it. She's had plenty of time, Mom snaps. The opportunity won't wait forever. I set down my fork. What exactly is this opportunity? Specifically. The silence that follows confirms what I already knew. There is no business plan, no investment opportunity, just another attempt to drain my resources. We're still finalizing details. Barbara finally says, her voice tight. I see. I take another bite, feeling something new rising within me. Not anger exactly, something calmer, steadier. The knowledge that I'm already gone. The next day, on Monday, Diane calls me into her office. My heart sinks. Certain someone has discovered my plans. I have good news, she says instead, sliding a folder across her desk. That branch transfer you inquired about? Bellingham has an opening starting next month. I put in a recommendation. I stare at her, speechless. Don't look so shocked, she says, smiling. You're one of our best. They'd be lucky to have you. Thank you, I managed. I don't know what to say. Say you'll send a postcard, and that you'll stop letting people take advantage of your good nature. That evening, Ryan helps me sort through my meager possessions in our shared apartment. I can drive your stuff up when you're ready, he offers, folding a sweater with surprising care. My band has a gig in Portland that weekend anyway. You don't have to do that. You don't have to do that. I know, he grins, but friends help friends escape toxic situations. Friends. The word feels unfamiliar but welcome. In my bedroom, I carefully select a few mementos worth taking. Grandma Cox's thimble collection, the watercolor I painted in high school that won 3rd place at the county fair, and the snow globe Dad brought me from his one business trip to Chicago. Everything else, the accumulated clutter of a life spent trying to be invisible, I sort into bags for donation. On my laptop, I sign the lease agreement for a tiny but sun-filled studio apartment in Bellingham, effective immediately. The landlord seemed confused when I offered 3 months' rent in advance, but I need the security of knowing it's mine, waiting for me. That same night, I purchased a one-way plane ticket for the day of my family's business meeting. As I click, confirm, Aunt Margaret calls. Are you sure about this? She asks, her voice crackling over the line. I've never been more sure of anything. I won't tell them where you've gone, she promises, but they'll figure it out eventually. By then, I'll be strong enough to handle it. I hang up and open my closet, where a small gift bag sits prepared. Inside lies a silk scarf burgundy, not navy blue that I bought with my first paycheck, along with a sealed letter explaining everything I've never had the courage to say. Some goodbyes are better left on paper. A week later, on Saturday night, I arrived at my parents' house with a small gift bag dangling from my fingertips. The silk scarf inside cost 3 days' worth of lunch money, but some things are worth the sacrifice. My heart hammers against my ribs as I step onto the familiar porch. Behind this door waits the family that shaped me, or rather, misshapen me into the person I've been for 28 years, the person I'm leaving behind tonight. Barbara opens the door before I can knock, her eyes narrowing at the gift bag. What's that? She asks, blocking the entrance. Just a little something, I say, my voice steadier than I expected. Can I come in? She studies me for a moment too long, like she's trying to decode something in my expression. Whatever she sees must not alarm her because she steps aside with a shrug. Mom's in one of her moods, she whispers as I pass. In the dining room, Mom fusses with the tablecloth while Dad silently places silverware beside each plate. The normalcy of the scene almost breaks my resolve. Almost. There she is, Mom says without looking up. You're late. Traffic, I lie, though I've been sitting in my car around the corner for 20 minutes, practicing my breathing. Dinner crawls by in painful small talk. Mrs. Peterson's hip replacement, the weather forecast, Barbara's new promotion. I nod and smile at all the right moments, while my gift bag sits beside my chair, waiting. Well, Mom says finally, pushing her plate away with an impatient sigh. Let's get to business matters, shall we? Dad collects the dishes with the mechanical movements of a man who checked out of this family dynamic years ago. Only his trembling hands betray any emotion. Mom produces a folder from beneath her chair and slides several papers across the table. We've decided the simplest approach is for you to sign these, she says, tapping a pen against the documents. Power of attorney. That way we can handle all the financial details without bothering you. Helping a little sister who isn't good with money, Barbara adds with a practiced smile. You've always been better with following instructions than making decisions. I stare at the paperwork. My name appears throughout the document, but every benefit, every protection runs toward them. Family takes care of family. Mom continues, her voice hardening. After everything we've done for you, everything we've sacrificed because of you, this is the least you can do. Dad returns from the kitchen, his eyes downcast as he takes his seat. The silence stretches between us, thick with expectation. You're right, I say finally, reaching for the gift bag beside my chair. I've thought about everything you've said. Mom and Barbara exchange triumphant glances. Dad's shoulders slump further. And I've decided, I continue, placing the bag in the center of the table, to give you something more valuable than money. Mom blinks, confused. What are you talking about? Open it, I say softly. With impatient fingers, Mom pulls out the elegant burgundy scarf, her favorite color, and then the sealed envelope beneath it. Her name is written across the front in my neatest handwriting. What is this? She demands. But her voice has lost its authority. My goodbye, I answered simply, rising from my chair. I know the truth now. About why you call me the mistake. About the business deal you missed. About everything. Barbara's mouth falls open. Aunt Margaret, she hisses. That interfering. I forgive you, I continue, the words flowing easier than I expected. And I'm leaving. Tonight. There's nothing more to discuss. I turn toward the door, feeling strangely weightless. Behind me, the sound of tearing paper as Mom opens the envelope. You can't just... Barbara starts. I already have. I interrupt, not turning back. My things are gone. My apartment is empty. My new job starts next week. Dad's chair scrapes against the floor. When I glance back, his eyes meet mine directly for the first time in years. Be safe, he whispers. Outside, the cool evening air fills my lungs. 30 minutes later, my phone buzzes in my pocket. Mom calling already. It will ring again, and again. For days, probably. Barbara's texts will come next. Mom's having a breakdown. How could you do this to us? After everything we've done for you. I drove away from the only home I've known, watching it shrink in my rearview mirror until it disappears completely. At the airport, I check in for my flight, then power off my old phone for the last time. Tomorrow, I'll turn on my new one. Tomorrow I'll wake up in my own place, in a city where nobody knows me as anyone's mistake. But tonight, I board a plane simply as Aspen. Not a daughter, not a sister, not a mistake. Just me. 2 days after I left, my mother and sister visited my old apartment. Lisa pounds on the door of my apartment, her knuckles turning white with each strike. Behind her, Barbara paces the narrow hallway, phone pressed to her ear. Aspen Marie Cox. Open this door right now. The landlord stands a few feet back, arms folded across his chest. Ladies, I told you. She moved out 3 days ago. Paid her final month and left the keys. Barbara ends her call, frustration tightening her features. Her phone's still going straight to voicemail. What do you mean she moved? Lisa spins toward the landlord. This is her apartment. Where would she go? He shrugs. Not my business where tenants go. But she seemed happy. Happier than I'd seen her in the 2 years she lived here. Lisa pushes past him into the now empty apartment. The faded beige walls bear rectangular patches where my few pictures once hung. The closet stands open, empty hangers dangling like forgotten promises. Her stuff is gone, Barbara says, stating the obvious as she always has. Lisa storms to the kitchen, yanking open drawers. Her bank statements. She always kept them in the kitchen drawer. The landlord clears his throat. I need to lock up now. The new tenant arrives tomorrow. This is a family emergency, Lisa snaps. Your emergency. He takes back his key. Not mine. In the parking lot, Barbara frantically taps at her phone. The bank won't give me any information. Says I'm not authorized on her accounts. Lisa's face darkens with an anger I've seen countless times. But for once, I'm not there to absorb it. She couldn't have gotten far. Not with her salary. Call her work. Later that evening, Barbara's voice trembles on the other end of my mother's speakerphone. She transferred to another branch. In Montana. They wouldn't tell me anything else because I'm not listed as her emergency contact. Montana? Lisa's voice rises to that pitch that always made me flinch. Who does she know in Montana? No one, my father says quietly. It's the first thing he's contributed to their frantic search. That's probably why she chose it. That. 3 states away, I wake to sunlight streaming through blinds I chose myself. My new apartment is small, a studio with a kitchenette and bathroom, barely big enough to turn around in, but every inch belongs to me. I roll onto my side, watching dawn paint the mountain peaks visible through my window. This view costs me an extra $70 a month, But each morning, it reminds me why I'm here. I chose this. I chose me. My phone buzzes with a calendar alert. First day. The familiar flutter of anxiety rises in my stomach, but it's different now, anticipation rather than dread. The local branch office looks almost identical to my old one, but I walk through the door with my shoulders back, my steps sure. You must be Aspen. A woman with silver-streaked hair says, extending her hand. Diane called me about you, said you're one of the best she's worked with. Thank you for the opportunity, I reply, my voice steady in a way it never was during family dinners. At lunch, I walk to the coffee shop across the street. The barista smiles, asking if I want my usual before realizing I'm new. I order a vanilla latte without mentally calculating if I can afford it, without hearing my mother's voice listing all the things that money could have bought for the family instead. I take my first sip, the warmth spreading through my chest, and realize this is what freedom tastes like. 3 months pass in a blur of new routines and quiet evenings that belong only to me. Then my work phone rings with an unfamiliar number. Aspen Cox speaking. A beat of silence, then, Aspen? My mother's voice, thinner than I remember. Thank God. We've been trying to reach you for months. My hand tightens around the receiver. How did you get this number? That doesn't matter. Her tone shifts, filling with the tremulous urgency I know so well. Your father's not well. His heart. The doctors say he needs surgery, and the insurance won't cover it all. We need you to come home. The old guilt rises like bile in my throat, but something new rises with it clarity. I'm sorry to hear about Dad, I say, meaning it, but I can't come home. Can't or won't. Her voice hardens. After everything we've done for you. I end the call, my hand shaking but resolute. That night, I opened my email to find a message from Barbara with the subject line, Family Obligations. Inside, veiled threats about legal remedies and filial responsibility laws meant to frighten me back into compliance. My phone rings Aunt Margaret's number. They're planning to visit, she says without preamble. Lisa found your address through that friend of yours from the diner. They're talking about driving out next weekend. Cold washes over me, but I don't panic. Instead, I make a list. Wednesday morning finds me sitting across from Patricia Wells, a lawyer with kind eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. They have no legal claim to your money, she confirms after hearing my story. A cease and desist letter should be sufficient, but we can pursue a restraining order if needed. That afternoon, I met with HR. I need to document a potential harassment situation, I explain, laying out the facts without emotion. My family may attempt to contact me here. The HR manager nods, making notes. We take employee safety seriously. I'll alert security and make sure your direct line is changed. That evening, I called Aunt Margaret. I love you, I tell her. But I need you to understand something. I'm not hiding. I'm standing my ground. If they come here, they'll be met with legal consequences. Silence stretches between us before she says, You sound different. I am different. 2 days later, a thick envelope arrived containing my mother's handwriting. Inside, I find a tear-stained letter full of accusations and pleas. At the bottom, in handwriting I've never seen such defeat. I don't know who you are anymore. I fold the letter carefully and place it in a box labeled Before. Then I open my window to the mountain air and breathe deeply. She's right. She doesn't know who I am anymore. Neither did I, until now. I wake to golden light filtering through curtains I chose myself. The soft cotton sheets purchased without calculating if I could afford them wrap around me like a promise kept. My apartment isn't large, but every corner reflects a choice I made. The watercolor painting of mountains above my reading chair, the collection of succulents thriving on my windowsill, the bookshelf filled with volumes I no longer have to hide. 1 year, the calendar on my wall confirms what my heart already knows. 1 year since I walked away from everything familiar into this life that finally feels like mine. My phone buzzes with birthday messages. Not the obligatory acknowledgments from family who resented my existence, but genuine wishes from people who simply enjoy my company. Diane from work, Ryan, who helped me move. The friends from my pottery class who plan to take me to dinner tonight. Looking forward to celebrating you, texts Marissa, my closest friend in this new city. No hidden agenda. No subtle dig about what I could contribute to the celebration. Just pure, uncomplicated affection. I shower and dress for work. choosing a burgundy blouse that would have been deemed too attention-seeking in my previous life. My reflection shows a woman who stands straight, whose eyes meet her own gaze without flinching. At the office, a small envelope waits on my desk. "Congratulations on your promotion," says the card inside, signed by the entire department. "Your attention to detail and initiative have been invaluable." My eyes burn with unexpected tears, not just for the salary increase that will further secure my independence, but for the recognition of value that has nothing to do with what I can give away. That evening, surrounded by friends at a small restaurant, I blew out candles on a cake nobody expected me to pay for. Later, alone in my apartment, I open my journal and write, "Today I turned 29. My savings account topped $10,000, money that's truly mine. I sleep through the night now." The nightmares about debt collectors and family emergencies have mostly stopped. Dr. Andrews says healing isn't linear, but I can feel the difference. I'm learning that boundaries aren't selfish, they're necessary. Every Thursday, I sit across from Dr. Andrews in her calm office, untangling the knots of my childhood. Sometimes I leave drained, sometimes lighter, always clearer. "You can acknowledge the hurt without continuing to live from it," she told me last week. "Your mother named you after a place she was passing through, but you've turned that name into something with roots and strength." On Saturdays, I volunteer at a community garden. My hands in the soil connect me to something larger than myself, something growing and alive, like me. Last month, I accepted a dinner invitation from Michael, an accountant I met through the garden. Our conversation flowed without the familiar undercurrent of fear. When he asked about my family, I told him the truth, not everything, but enough. He didn't run, he just listened. The mail brings sporadic reminders of my past. Mother's Christmas card arrived without a note, just her name signed with a flourish. Barbara sends occasional texts about family dramas, fishing for responses I no longer feel compelled to provide. Dad's letters come monthly, tentative bridges I cross with careful steps. I answer with brief, kind notes that maintain distance without cruelty. Yesterday brought something unexpected, a letter from my 19-year-old cousin Jessie. "Aunt Lisa says you abandoned the family," she wrote. "But something about how they talk about you doesn't sound right. I'm working 2 jobs while going to school, and Mom keeps saying I owe her for raising me. I don't know what to do." My hands trembled as I dialed her number. For an hour, I listened to her story so familiar it could have been my own. "You're not crazy," I told her. "And you're not alone." Later, looking at the framed quote on my wall, some call it a mistake. I call it my beginning. I realized something profound. The mistake of my existence had become someone else's lifeline. This morning, on my birthday, I stood at my window watching the sunrise paint the sky in shades of promise. 2 years ago, I couldn't imagine this life. Now, I can't imagine returning to that one. I touch the frame holding my favorite quote and speak the truth I've finally embraced. "The family you're born into may shape your start, but the family you choose determines your future." I am standing in the polished lobby of Cascadia Medical Center when I hear it. A name I haven't answered to in 29 years. "Caitlin." The voice slices through the ambient hospital noise, phones ringing, muted conversations, the squeak of orthopedic shoes against buffed tile. My chest constricts as if cinched by invisible wire. My hands begin to tremble, the visitor badge clipped to my blazer suddenly feeling like a concrete block. "Caitlin Gray." The voice calls again, louder this time, demanding recognition. Heads turn. Curious glances sweep in my direction as a tall man with silver-streaked hair strides across the lobby, a petite blonde woman trailing behind him. Their faces are older versions of the ones that have haunted the edges of my nightmares for decades. Across the lobby, a familiar voice calls out, "Arabella, over here." My son waves from near the reception desk, still wearing his blue surgical scrubs, completely unaware of the earthquake fracturing my carefully constructed world. 2 names. 1 person. I am Arabella Beaumont, now have been for 28 years, but the sound of Caitlin pulls me backward through time. Suddenly, I'm 17 again, standing in our apartment doorway with a positive pregnancy test clutched in my trembling hand, watching my father's face contort with rage. "You have until morning to pack," he had said, voice flat as pavement. "Take what you can carry." My mother had stood behind him, silent tears streaming down her face, offering no defense. The next morning, they'd driven me to the bus station, with exactly $219 in cash, every dollar I'd saved from my summer job at the mall. "Martin, perhaps we should approach more gently," The blonde woman, my mother murmurs now, her hand clutching her husband's arm, but her eyes are calculating, scanning the lobby for reactions. They've rehearsed this moment, planned this ambush. Caitlin, it's been too long. My father extends his hand as if we'd parted after a pleasant family dinner rather than him casting out his pregnant teenage daughter to fend for herself. You look wonderful. I fight against the violent undertow of memory that first night sleeping on a park bench, too terrified to close my eyes. The cardboard sign I'd made, pregnant, please help. The rain that soaked through my only jacket. Then Agatha Beaumont finding me there, this elegant woman in her 60s offering not just a meal but a home, her 6-bedroom craftsman with a nursery already prepared for what would become her unofficial grand family project. Everyone deserves a second chance, she'd told me, over steaming mugs of tea that first morning. The memories twist inside me like snakes. My fingers find Agatha's antique watch on my wrist, its steady ticking anchoring me to the present. 29 years of silence. Why now? I know the answer before I can fully form the question. 3 weeks ago, the Seattle Times ran a feature on Everest, the brilliant young cardiothoracic surgery resident who had performed a miraculous procedure on a newborn. The article mentioned the Agatha Beaumont Foundation. It connected my son to the boutique hotel and bakery empire that made me a wealthy woman after Agatha's passing. And now, suddenly, here they are. My father steps forward as if to embrace me. I step back, chin raised, finding my voice. My name is Arabella. My mother laughs, a brittle sound like glass cracking. Don't be ridiculous. You'll always be our Caitlin. 2 nurses at the reception desk exchange glances. One whispers something to the other. I realize that we have an audience now. My father notes it too, his smile broadening for their benefit. We've waited so long for this moment, he says, loud enough to carry. When we saw the article about our grandson's surgical achievement, we knew it was time to reconnect with our family. The strategic word choice doesn't escape me. Our grandson, our family, establishing ownership, connection, bloodlines. The familiar gray family tactic appear reasonable while taking what doesn't belong to you. My head feels light. The hotel magnate's daughter and the disgraced pregnant teenager superimposed in the same body, neither quite real. Everest waves again from across the lobby, clearly wondering why I haven't joined him. He looks so much like me. Agatha used to say he had my determination in his eyes. We know we made mistakes, my mother says, her voice softening. But surely after all this time, we can put the past behind us. I notice her designer handbag, the diamond earrings that catch the fluorescent light. Martin wears an expensive watch, not the same bargain store brand he wore when he drove me to the bus station with instructions never to return. Whatever they want from this reunion, it's calculated, rehearsed, strategic. The past? I finally manage, the word coming out sharper than intended. The past was watching you drive away while I stood at a bus station with nowhere to go. Martin's smile tightens. We were young parents facing a difficult situation. You were 41, I correct him. Mom was 38. A woman in scrubs looks up from the reception desk, clearly uncomfortable witnessing this confrontation. My mother notices and adjusts her approach, lowering her voice, leaning in closer. Darling, we've changed. We've regretted what happened every day since. 29 years of silence suggest otherwise. My fingers twist Agatha's watch, one full rotation, then another. A trick she taught me for managing moments of crisis. I'm the CEO of Bluefinch Bakery. I sit on 3 charitable boards. I raised a son who saves lives with his hands. I am not that terrified teenager anymore. Across the lobby, Everest notices something is wrong. He excuses himself from the conversation with a colleague and starts walking toward us, his stride purposeful, protective. The son I raised alone. The boy Agatha helped me nurture into the man he's become. Is everything okay here? Everest asks, positioning himself beside me, a physical barrier between me and the strangers claiming to be my parents. In his eyes, I see a choice. Create a scene in this hospital where he works, where his reputation matters, or retreat strategically and handle this on my terms, not theirs. Agatha would choose the latter. Never fight a battle without choosing the battlefield, she would say. Martin's smile shifts as he takes in Everest 6 feet tall, confident, successful. My father extends his hand. You must be our grandson. We've waited so long to meet you. Everest doesn't take the offered hand. Instead, he places his arm around my shoulders. I'm Dr. Beaumont. he says, emphasizing our shared surname. My mother is Arabella Beaumont. I feel something strengthen inside me at my son's touch, the foundation Agatha built for us brick by brick. The legal name change at 18. The adult adoption at 20. The life constructed far from the wreckage they created. We should go, I say to Everest, my voice steadier than I feel. We have dinner reservations. Caitlin, my father calls as we turn away. We're staying at the Olympic. We'd like to meet properly, as a family. I pause, turn back one final time. You gave up the right to call me anything 29 years ago. Nolan Pierce's office smells like sandalwood and leather, the scent of stability in a world suddenly spinning off its axis. 3 days have passed since my parents materialized in the hospital lobby, yet their voices echo in my mind like a broken record. Caitlin. Caitlin Gray. The name feels foreign now, a borrowed identity I returned decades ago. I found these in Agatha's safety deposit box, Nolan says, sliding a manila folder across his desk. His silver hair catches the afternoon light streaming through Venetian blinds. She kept meticulous records. The folder contains yellowed court documents from 1996. My hands tremble as I scan the pages, each line revealing a truth I never fully understood. Temporary guardianship granted to Agatha Beaumont. A no-contact order against Martin and Jocelyn Gray. The careful legal architecture of my salvation, constructed while I was still learning to change diapers with one hand while holding Everest with the other. There's more. Nolan continues, pushing another stack toward me. Your legal name change in 1998. The adult adoption papers from 2000. Agatha made certain everything was ironclad. I run my fingers over Agatha's familiar signature, the elegant swoop of her initials. All these years, I thought she was simply being kind, a wealthy woman with a soft heart for a pregnant teenager. Now I see the steel beneath her velvet exterior. She hadn't just rescued me. She had fortified me against a threat she anticipated would someday return. Why would they want contact now, after 29 years? I ask, though the answer materializes before Nolan can respond. He taps the business section of the Seattle Times spread open on his desk. The headline reads, Gray and Fox Holdings under SEC investigation. Below is a smaller article featuring Everest's miracle surgery, mentioning his connection to the Agatha Beaumont Foundation and Bluefinch Bakery empire. The timing isn't coincidental. Nolan says, your parents' company is in serious trouble, while your son has just been publicly identified as heir to a clean, profitable business portfolio. My stomach twists as reality reshapes itself around me. They waited until Agatha died to make their move. Nolan nods, then slides a final document across his desk. This one is new, the ink still fresh, the paper crisp. A contract between Martin Gray and Tyler Quinn, Everest's biological father. I haven't heard that name since he declared my pregnancy not his problem, outside the mall food court where we both worked. The contract specifies an 8% success fee for a family reunion campaign. The room tilts slightly. They're working with Tyler? Your ex-boyfriend filed for bankruptcy last month, Nolan explains. Apparently, he's decided that Everest, the son he never acknowledged, might be his ticket to solvency. I close my eyes, touching Agatha's watch on my wrist. All those years of insisting I complete legal paperwork, pushing me to document everything, teaching me to create contingency plans for the bakery, it wasn't paranoia or business acumen alone. It was protection. They're not seeking reconciliation, I say quietly. They want access to what Agatha built. I'm afraid it's worse than that, Nolan replies, handing me a financial journal. Gray and Fox Holdings isn't just under investigation. They're facing potential criminal charges. Your father needs more than money, he needs a reputation whitewash. A heartwarming family reunion story and association with a respected surgeon would be quite valuable right now. The memory of my father's practiced smile in the hospital lobby takes on new significance, not just calculated, but desperate. My mother's tears, precisely timed for maximum effect. They're drowning, and I'm their life raft. Do they think I'll just welcome them back because they called me by my old name? My voice sounds stronger than I feel. They're desperate, not delusional, Nolan says. They've hired a crisis management team. They're cultivating a narrative about family reconciliation that will play well in the business community. Family sticks together in troubled times. We can help each other. He quotes the phrase with distaste. And Tyler? What's his angle beyond money? Bankruptcy fraud investigation. The timing suggests he's seeking protection through new family connections. Your parents found a desperate ally. The scope of the betrayal expands beyond what I imagined. Not just my parents' sudden reappearance, but a coordinated campaign to undermine everything Agatha helped me build. Their willingness to use media pressure shows they'll stop at nothing. Nolan adds, showing me a press inquiry about a touching family reconciliation that landed at the foundation office this morning. I stand and walk to the window, watching Seattle's skyline blur through unexpected tears. All these years, I thought Agatha saved me because she was kind. I never realized she was fighting a war. She was both, Nolan says, his voice gentle. Kind and strategic. She loved you, Arabella, and she knew exactly who she was protecting you from. The door opens, and Everest enters, his surgical scrubs replaced with a crisp button-down shirt, dark circles under his eyes testifying to a long hospital shift. He studies the documents spread across the desk, his expression hardening as he absorbs their meaning. She knew they might return, Nolan says, moving to a floor-to-ceiling bookcase. He pulls out a thick binder labeled Gray Contingencies in Agatha's neat handwriting. She prepared for this exact situation. The timing matches my feature in the Times, Everest says, scanning the articles. They've been monitoring my career. The revelation strikes me like physical pain. While I watched my son graduate medical school with pride, they were calculating his future value to their reputation. My grandmother protected you then, Everest says, placing his hand on my shoulder. We'll protect your legacy now. Nolan opens the binder, revealing meticulously organized sections, legal precedents, financial records, media statements, witness affidavits. 29 years of documentation, waiting for this moment. We're not fighting unprepared, Nolan says, his attorney's confidence evident. Agatha made certain of that. I look between Everest and Nolan, feeling something shift inside me. The terrified teenager who stepped off a bus with nothing is gone. In her place stands the woman Agatha believed I could become, the one who won't be erased again. Then, let's use her plan, I say, opening the binder. Show me everything. The next day, I stare at the manila folder Nolan has spread across his walnut desk. The papers inside have the faded quality of documents stored for decades, yet they feel like live ammunition in my hands. Each yellowed page represents another piece of protection Agatha quietly built around us, around me, while I was busy learning to be a mother. She documented everything, Nolan says, his silver-rimmed glasses catching the afternoon light as he slides another paper toward me. Agatha hired a private investigator every time the Greys attempted contact. My fingers tremble slightly as I lift a report dated 1998, a year after Everest was born. The investigator's neat handwriting details Martin and Jocelyn Gray watching us from their car outside Blue Finch's first location. They never approached, just observed. Like predators studying potential prey. There are 11 documented violations of the no-contact order. Nolan continues, his voice carrying the quiet satisfaction of a man who has found the perfect chess move. Each one carefully recorded, photographed, and notarized. I really won. I scan the papers, my heart pounding against my ribs. She never told me they tried to contact us. She wanted to protect you from exactly what's happening now. Nolan taps a legal document bearing an embossed seal. This adult adoption is ironclad. They cannot claim any legal relationship to you, which means they have no standing regarding Everest either. The revelation sends a current through my body. All these years, I thought Agatha's insistence on legal documentation was her natural business acumen. Now I see it was armor she was forging for me, piece by piece. Mom? Everest appears in the doorway, still in hospital scrubs despite having finished his shift hours ago. His face bears the focused intensity he carries from the operating room. The hospital administrator forwarded me an email. He holds up his phone. Tyler Quinn contacted them about a family reconciliation story they want to pitch to Seattle Life magazine. My stomach drops. Tyler, a name I haven't spoken aloud in 28 years, Everest's biological father, who vanished before his son took his first breath. They're coordinating, I say, the pieces clicking together with terrible clarity. This wasn't a chance encounter at the hospital. They've been watching your career. Everest nods, jaw tightening, as he scans the documents spread across Nolan's desk. I gather the reports, feeling something unfamiliar crystallize inside me. Not fear, something harder, clearer. In my hand, I hold proof that my parents' sudden appearance isn't about reconciliation or regret. It's calculated. As calculated as the night they drove me to the bus station with my life in a duffel bag. I want to meet them, I say, surprising myself with the steadiness in my voice. Nolan and Everest exchange glances. Are you certain that's wise? Nolan asks. I tap the folder. I'm not walking in unarmed this time. 2 days later, the cafeteria of Cascadia Medical Center buzzes with the predictable rhythm of hospital life. Doctors in scrubs grab coffee between rounds. Visitors seeking momentary respite from beeping monitors and antiseptic hallways pick at salads. It's public enough to prevent a scene, yet private enough for the conversation I need to have. I've chosen my outfit with the same strategic care Agatha would approve of a tailored navy suit that carries the authority of the CEO I've become, not the frightened teenager they discarded. Agatha's watch gleams on my wrist, its weight reassuring. They arrive 5 minutes early, another calculated move. Martin's silver-streaked hair is freshly trimmed, his charcoal suit expensive but understated. Jocelyn wears a cream-colored dress that softens her appearance, pearl earrings catching the fluorescent light. They look like what they're trying to portray concerned grandparents seeking reconciliation. The image makes my stomach turn. Caitlin, Martin begins, extending his hand. Arabella, I correct him, not taking his hand. My legal name, for 28 years. His smile remains fixed, though something flickers in his eyes. Of course, old habits. I don't invite them to sit. Instead, I place Agatha's folder on the table between us. I found her files about you, I say, opening the folder to reveal the first surveillance photo from 1998. All the times you tried to contact us when it benefited you. Martin's face stiffens. Jocelyn's gaze darts around the cafeteria, clearly uncomfortable with potential witnesses. Perhaps we should discuss this somewhere more private, she suggests, her voice honey-sweet with concern. I prefer witnesses, I reply, turning another page. Like when you showed up at Bluefinch's grand opening in 2005. Or when you sent that letter to Everest's high school after his science award was in the paper. Martin shifts his weight, his confidence visibly faltering. Those were different times. We were trying to... Or when you hired that private investigator to research Agatha's finances in 2010? I continue, revealing another document, all violations of the no-contact order you signed. Jocelyn's composure cracks. Those were desperate times. We've changed. Everyone deserves a second chance. The irony of her using Agatha's phrase, the words that saved my life when they threw me away, ignites something fierce inside me. You signed away your rights for money, I say, sliding forward the court document with both their signatures. I have the records of the payment Tyler Quinn made to you, 8% of his potential inheritance from his family if you both disappeared from our lives. Martin's face reddens. That's exactly what happened. I interrupt, my voice carrying enough for nearby tables to hear. You calculated my value and found me wanting. Now you've calculated Everest's value and found him worth claiming. 5. Several doctors at a nearby table look over colleagues of Everest, who have witnessed his meteoric rise through the surgical program. Their expressions shift from curiosity to concern as they recognize me. We only want what's best for our grandson, Martin says, voice lowered but intensity unchanged. For our family. The word family in his mouth feels like a violation. I stand straighter, channeling every board meeting where I refuse to be intimidated by men in expensive suits. You're not my family, I say clearly. You forfeited that right 29 years ago. Agatha Beaumont became my mother, the night she found me sleeping on a park bench after you drove away. She's the name on my adoption papers. She's the name on my son's birth certificate, and she made sure you could never take that from us. Jocelyn reaches toward me, her manicured fingers trembling slightly. Darling, we were wrong. We've lived with that mistake every day. Yet you never tried to make amends until my son became valuable to you, I counter. Until the Agatha Beaumont Foundation was featured in the Times. A tall woman in a tailored suit approaches our table, Dr. Lancaster, the hospital administrator. Her expression is politely concerned as she looks between us. Is everything all right, Mrs. Beaumont? She asks, emphasizing my chosen name. Before Martin can speak, I answer, yes, thank you. These people were just leaving. Something flashes across Martin's face, the same expression he wore the night he told me I had until morning to pack my things. But this time, I don't flinch. This isn't over, he says quietly. Actually, it is, I reply. The adult adoption papers Agatha filed give me complete legal protection from any claim you might make. My attorney is preparing a cease and desist order as we speak. Dr. Lancaster's presence has drawn the attention of other staff members. Martin and Jocelyn recognize the shift in the room, the witnesses forming a silent wall of support around me. We'll be in touch, Martin says, attempting to salvage his dignity as they stand to leave. No, I say simply. You won't. I watch them walk away, their carefully constructed facade crumbling under the weight of exposed truth. My hands aren't trembling anymore. For the first time since hearing them call my former name across the lobby, I feel steady. My phone buzzes with a text from Nolan. Judge Wilson approved the temporary restraining order. It's being served tomorrow. However, another text arrives from Everest. Finished rounds early. Want me to come down? Before I can reply, Dr. Lancaster places a gentle hand on my shoulder. Everest is one of our finest, she says. His character speaks volumes about his upbringing. Whatever those people wanted, they clearly don't deserve to be part of what you've built. The simple validation threatens to crack the composure I've maintained throughout the confrontation. I manage a nod of appreciation. More hospital staff approach doctors who have worked with Everest, nurses who have seen his dedication to patients. Each offers a quiet word of support, or simply a knowing nod. The community I never expected rallies around me in the wake of my stand. When I finally sit alone at the table, my phone rings. Nolan sounds triumphant. The adult adoption records are absolutely ironclad, he says, without preamble. I've filed preemptive paperwork with family court. They won't get within legal shouting distance of either of you. Thank you, I say, but my fingers have found something else in the folder, a handwritten note on Agatha's personal stationery. The sight of her elegant script makes my throat tighten. What is it? Nolan asks, hearing my silence. A letter from Agatha, I say softly, hidden in the legal files. I read the words that bring her voice back to me with startling clarity. Blood makes relatives, but love makes family. Remember that when they inevitably return. You are my daughter in all the ways that matter, Arabella. Never doubt your right to the name you chose and the life you've built. By the time Everest finds me, I've composed myself again. He slides into the chair opposite mine, scanning my face for signs of distress. Are you okay? He asks. I close the folder containing 3 decades of protection I never knew I had. I am, I reply, surprised to find it's true. Your grandmother made sure of that. Everest's smile holds the same quiet strength Agatha's did. Mom, you stood your ground just like grandmother taught you. As we walk together through the hospital corridors, I feel lighter than I have in days. This was only one battle in what promises to be a longer war, but now I know I'm not fighting with just my own strength. I'm carrying Agatha's strategic foresight, Everest's unwavering support, and the legal ammunition Nolan has helped uncover. If I can achieve this much with only days of preparation, I wonder what might be possible with proper planning. For the first time since hearing my old name called across the lobby, I allow myself to feel something beyond fear or anger. Hope. Nolan's conference room has transformed into our command center. Legal documents spread across the glossy oak table like battle plans. The morning sun filters through Venetian blinds, casting striped shadows across our arsenal. Court records, financial statements, newspaper clippings, and photographs. 1 week since the hospital confrontation, and I've exchanged raw emotion for something colder, more calculated. My finger traces the edge of a manila folder containing the no-contact order my parents violated repeatedly over 29 years. Their SEC investigation could be our strongest leverage, Nolan says, tapping a business journal article. His silver-rimmed glasses reflect the document's headline. Gray and Fox Holdings faces federal scrutiny. I nod, mentally cataloging this vulnerability alongside others we've identified. What legal challenges could they reasonably mount? 3 possibilities. Nolan slides forward a yellow legal pad. They might claim Agatha exercised undue influence during your adult adoption. They could challenge the legitimacy of the name change. Or most dangerously attempt to establish some claim on Everest through biological connection. My stomach tightens at the last one. I twist Agatha's watch, one full rotation, then another. How do we counter the media narrative they're building? I ask. Controlled information release. Nolan adjusts his tie. We have Agatha's documentation of their abandoned attempts to contact you whenever your achievements made the news. Each coincided with periods of financial difficulty for them. I pick up a faded newspaper clipping from 2008, my first bakery opening, tucked in the business section. The week after publication, Martin left 3 messages at Blue Finch. Agatha documented everything. She never made a move without planning 3 steps ahead. I run my fingers across her familiar handwriting in the margins of a legal brief. I need to think like she would. The conference room door opens, and Everest enters, still in his hospital scrubs. "They're making rounds at the hospital," he says without preamble. Dr. Winters mentioned that Martin asked pointed questions about my surgical fellowship application. I add this to our growing threat assessment. Any contact with your colleagues? They approached Dr. Matheson in the cafeteria. He shut them down immediately. Everest places his phone on the table. I've documented everyone they've attempted to speak with. Nolan nods approvingly. Perfect. Evidence of continued pattern. I study our collection of data points with the detached calculation I bring to quarterly business reviews. This isn't personal anymore, it's a hostile takeover attempt to be neutralized. Emotion clouds judgment. Agatha taught me that. The Bluefinch managers reported the Greys came by the downtown location yesterday. I tell them, asked questions about our expansion plans, tried to get financial details from the assistant manager. Nolan makes a note. We'll need statements from your staff. The afternoon passes in methodical preparation. We catalog vulnerabilities, identify allies, anticipate counterattacks. My mind settles into the familiar rhythm of strategic planning, the same process that grew Agatha's single bakery into a regional chain. At 6, Nolan's assistant knocks and enters with a manila envelope. "This just arrived via courier, Mr. Pierce." Nolan opens it, scans the document, and his expression changes. Something tightens around my heart. "What is it?" I ask, already knowing it's nothing good. "They've filed a petition to invalidate your adult adoption." He passes me the document. Based on Stevenson versus Linder, 2012. My fingers tremble slightly as I scan the legal language. I've never heard of this case. Few have. Nolan removes his glasses. It's an obscure precedent from Montana involving questions of mental capacity in the adoptive parent. They're claiming Agatha wasn't competent when she adopted you. The words strike like physical blows, not just attacking me but Agatha's mind, her judgment. The sharpest business intellect I've ever known. "They've hired Howard Levinson," Nolan says, tapping the signature on the filing. "He specializes in challenging adult adoptions." The floor seems to shift beneath me. They're not just desperate, they're dangerously competent. Everest places a steady hand on my shoulder. "They're attacking the foundation of your identity." "No," I correct him, finding my voice. "They're attacking Agatha's judgment, her legacy." I straighten the documents on the table, aligning their edges with precision. My hands stop trembling. The initial shock gives way to something harder, more focused. "They think we're unprepared," I say. "They don't realize Agatha anticipated this exact scenario." Nolan nods, reaching for a sealed envelope from his safe. She left instructions for precisely this situation. I think of Agatha on her deathbed 2 years ago, her hand clasping mine. "Remember what I taught you about chess, Arabella? The best defense is prepared before the attack begins." My fingers close around her antique watch, drawing strength from its steady rhythm. They're underestimating how thoroughly Agatha prepared us. I return to the documents, my mind sharpening with newfound clarity. This isn't just about protecting my identity anymore. It's about preserving everything Agatha built, everything she entrusted to me. The battle lines are drawn, the strategy set, and unlike that terrified 17-year-old girl abandoned at a bus station, I am not facing this fight alone. The conference room at Nolan's law firm has become our war room. Maps of strategy spread across polished mahogany financial records, sworn affidavits, character testimonials. For 3 weeks, we've moved methodically through each element of our defense, preparing for whatever the Greys might attempt next. "They've filed a motion challenging the mental competency of Agatha at the time of your adult adoption," Nolan says, sliding a document across the table. His silver hair catches the afternoon light. "It won't stand, but it shows they're attacking the foundation of everything." I twist Agatha's watch one full rotation. My fingertips trace the worn silver links, feeling the subtle scratches that tell the story of a lifetime. And our response? Countersuit for harassment and emotional distress. Nolan taps another folder, thicker than the first. I've documented 17 separate incidents where they've attempted contact over the years, each violating the no-contact order. Agatha kept impeccable records. Everest enters, still wearing his surgical scrubs, face lined with fatigue after a 12-hour shift. He drops a leather portfolio on the table. I've collected statements from every attending physician who's worked with me since residency began. 23 doctors vouching for both my character and yours, Mom. The Blue Finch financial reports are ready, I add, gesturing toward the spreadsheets I've spent nights organizing. Every quarterly statement since Agatha handed me control. Profit margins, expansion timelines, employee retention rates, all evidence of stable management. This isn't the quick confrontation of the hospital cafeteria. We're not aiming for a momentary victory. We're securing permanent protection. We're preparing for the final confrontation, Nolan says, voice steady as he reviews our documentation. Not just another skirmish. My phone buzzes. A text from Marina, my assistant manager at Blue Finch's downtown location. I feel my chest tighten as I read her message. They approached my staff. My voice sounds strange in my ears. The Grays visited 3 bakery locations yesterday, offering cash for information about working conditions. Everest's expression darkens. They're undermining your business now. I press my fingertips against the cool surface of the conference table, anchoring myself against the wave of violation washing through me. It's no longer just about my identity or my past. They're threatening the livelihood of people who depend on me. I have 42 employees across 5 locations. I say, thinking of faces, names, families, people with rent payments, student loans, childcare costs. If they turn my staff, they won't. Nolan interrupts firmly. Your employees are loyal, but we need to expand our strategy beyond personal defense. Everest paces the room, tension evident in his shoulders. They're more thorough than we anticipated. I found out they've contacted 4 Beaumont hotel suppliers asking about business relationships dating back to when Agatha was still active in management. The air in the room feels thinner. I twist Agatha's watch again, 2 full rotations this time. Do I tell the staff about our family history? The question escapes before I can contain it. Or will that put more pressure on them? Make them feel they need to choose sides? Nolan considers this carefully. That's your decision, Arabella. But remember what Agatha always said about transparency in crisis. Trust creates allies. Secrets create vulnerabilities. Another lesson from the woman who saved me. We've positioned everything we can. Everest says after a moment of reflection. The legal documentation, the professional testimonials, the business records. It all leads to the Agatha Beaumont Foundation Gala next month. I nod, understanding the significance. 500 guests. Media coverage. The perfect battlefield. One where the Grays would be at a distinct disadvantage. We're as ready as we can be. Nolan confirms, gathering papers into folders. The Foundation Gala is our opportunity to end this permanently. There's a certain peace in completeness. Every legal avenue explored, every witness prepared, every document cataloged. The terrified woman who froze at the sound of Caitlin in a hospital lobby has been replaced by someone who thinks 3 steps ahead, anticipating threats before they materialize. Everest places his hand over mine, his surgeon's fingers steady and warm. Grandmother's plan is solid. We have everything we need. I feel a quiet strength building beneath the surface of my fear. The Grays thought they were targeting a vulnerable woman caught off guard. Instead, they're about to face the daughter Agatha Beaumont raised, strategic, prepared, and absolutely unwilling to surrender what was built through love rather than blood. My fingers find the clasp of Agatha's watch, feeling its familiar weight. Then we're ready for whatever comes next. A week later, I'm staring at my phone screen when the notification appears. My thumb hovers over the local news app alert. Gray family seeks reconciliation with estranged daughter and grandson. Something inside me goes still. Not the panicked stillness from the hospital lobby, but the deadly calm that comes before a storm. I tap the notification. The video loads, showing Martin and Jocelyn seated on a cream-colored couch in what appears to be a hotel suite, the Olympic, just as they'd said. My father's silver hair is perfectly combed, his navy suit immaculate. My mother's blonde hair frames her face in soft waves, her pearl necklace catching the light as she dabs at non-existent tears. We simply want to know our grandson, Martin says, his voice carrying that practiced sincerity I remember from childhood. After seeing his remarkable surgical achievement in the news, we realized life is too short to let old disagreements keep a family apart. Disagreements, I whisper to the empty room. Is that what we're calling abandonment now? The interviewer, a woman with sympathetic eyes and a predatory smile, leans forward. And your daughter? What would you say to her if she's watching? Jocelyn touches her husband's arm, her diamond bracelet glinting. Caitlin, sweetheart, we understand you might still harbor some resentment about the past. We were young parents facing an impossible situation. I laugh out loud, the sound harsh in my quiet living room. Young, you were 41, Dad. But family is family, Martin continues on screen. We're not getting any younger. All we want is to be part of your lives, to know our grandson. Is that so much to ask? The camera pulls back to reveal photos they've brought, old snapshots of me as a child, carefully selected to create the illusion of a happy family. There's even a photograph of me at 16, taken the year before I got pregnant, before everything fell apart. My phone vibrates with Nolan's incoming call. Have you seen it? He asks without preamble. I'm watching now. My voice sounds strange even to my own ears, controlled, yet vibrating with something darker than anger. It's a calculated move, Nolan says. The timing is perfect, one day before the Foundation Gala. The Agatha Beaumont Foundation Gala. 500 guests. Full media coverage. The most important fundraising event of the year, for young mothers in crisis. The exact mothers I once was. They know exactly what they're doing, I say, watching as Jocelyn dabs at her eyes again. The interviewer hands her a tissue. A practiced move that looks spontaneous. They're positioning themselves as reasonable people seeking reconciliation, Nolan continues. And you as the bitter daughter keeping a beloved grandson from his grandparents. I finish for him. The unstable woman who changed her name and turned her back on family. As if summoned by my words, the interviewer asks that very question. Some might wonder why your daughter changed her name. Was there more to this estrangement than youthful disagreements? Martin's expression tightens for a fraction of a second before smoothing into practiced concern. Caitlin was always sensitive, impulsive. We believe she fell under the influence of her employer, Agatha Beaumont, a wealthy woman who, unfortunately, had no children of her own. The implication hangs in the air, ugly and calculated, that Agatha somehow manipulated a vulnerable girl, stole her from her loving parents. My grip tightens on the phone until my knuckles turn white. They're not just coming for me now. They're attacking Agatha's memory. Call Everest. I tell Nolan, my voice flat with controlled fury. Tell him not to watch this at the hospital. I'll meet him at your office in 30 minutes. I end the call and force myself to watch the rest. Each word they speak is another brick in the wall of their narrative. Concerned grandparents. Heartbroken parents. A family torn apart by misunderstanding. Not once do they mention throwing me out with $219 to my name. Not once do they acknowledge the 29 years of silence, except to frame it as my choice, my bitterness, my inability to forgive. By the time I arrive at Nolan's office, my phone has 17 missed calls from reporters. 2 donors have texted to express concern about tomorrow's gala. The foundation's social media accounts are flooded with comments demanding I let bygones be bygones from people who know nothing about what actually happened. Everest is already there, pacing the length of Nolan's conference room, his surgical precision temporarily abandoned in favor of raw fury. They called me their miracle grandson. He spits the words out, as if they had any right, as if they didn't sign away any claim to either of us decades ago. Nolan stands at the head of the table, calm amid our storm. We've prepared for this, everything is in place. I take a deep breath, touching Agatha's watch on my wrist. One full rotation, then another. The ritual centers me, brings me back to what matters. Activate everything, I say. All of it, now. Nolan nods once, then picks up his phone. Within the hour, our counteroffensive begins, not with angry denials or emotional outbursts, but with facts. Methodical, undeniable facts. A press release from Nolan's firm detailing the legal history, the court records, the temporary guardianship, the no-contact order. All carefully presented without attacking the Greys personally, simply laying out the documented timeline. A statement from Everest, professional and measured. I am proud to be Dr. Everest Beaumont, son of Arabella Beaumont. My chosen family has supported me through every step of my education and career. I respectfully request privacy as I continue my work, saving lives. Testimonials from long-term Bluefinch Bakery employees appear on social media, stories about Arabella's leadership and Agatha's legacy. The community we've built over decades begins to rally, not with dramatic declarations but with steady support. By evening, 3 major donors who had wavered call to confirm their attendance at tomorrow's gala. The news coverage shifts from family seeking reconciliation to complex legal history revealed. I should feel triumphant. Instead, I feel a strange hollowness as I watch our careful preparations unfold exactly as planned. For nearly 30 years, I've carried the weight of that night standing in the doorway with the pregnancy test, watching my life collapse, the long bus ride to nowhere. For 28 years, I've been building something else, a business, a foundation, a life with my son. And now, it comes down to this. A public relations battle on the eve of the most important night of the year. My phone rings, unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answer, Arabella Beaumont. The foundation gala should be interesting tomorrow night. My father's voice, smooth as ever. We've decided to attend. The floor seems to drop away beneath me. You weren't invited. We're community members interested in supporting young mothers, he says, and I can hear the smile in his voice. What kind of grandparents would we be if we didn't support such an important cause? I end the call without another word, turn to find Everest and Nolan watching me with concern. They're coming to the gala, I say, my voice sounding distant to my own ears. They've decided to crash it. Nolan's expression hardens. Then we'll be ready for them. Everest moves to my side, his hand on my shoulder. We've known this was coming, Mom. Everything is in place. I nod, the hollowness inside me hardening into something stronger. We need to review everything one more time. No surprises tomorrow. We work late into the night, reviewing security protocols, briefing staff, preparing for every possible scenario. The gala venue sends updated floor plans. The catering manager confirms they've been instructed not to seat the Greys at any foundation tables. Our legal team prepares documents to be served if necessary. It's after midnight when Everest and I finally return home. We sit in the kitchen, Agatha's kitchen, with its hand-painted tiles and copper pots hanging from the ceiling rack. The heart of the home she created for us when no one else would. Remember what grandmother used to say about confrontations? Everest asks, his voice quiet in the stillness. I smile despite everything. Never meet your opponent where they want to fight. Choose your own battlefield. Tomorrow, we fight on our terms. Everest reaches across the table, takes my hand. Tomorrow, we show them what real family looks like. I squeeze his hand, feeling the surgeon's calluses that mirror my own baker's hands. Agatha would be proud of you. Of us, he corrects. She planned for this, Mom. She knew they might come back someday, and she made sure we'd be ready. I look around this kitchen where Agatha taught me to bake, where I nursed Everest through childhood illnesses, where we celebrated his medical school acceptance. This home that belongs to us not by birth but by choice. Get some sleep, I tell him. Tomorrow will be the performance of our lives. After he goes upstairs, I sit alone in the quiet kitchen, touching Agatha's watch. Tomorrow, everything changes. Tomorrow, I finally face the ghost of Caitlin Gray and put her to rest forever. Tomorrow, we end this. The next evening, I stand at the back entrance of the Grand Ballroom, watching 500 of Seattle's most influential citizens mingle beneath crystal chandeliers. The Agatha Beaumont Foundation Gala has always been the culmination of our year's work, but tonight it represents something far more personal. My fingers find Agatha's watch, its steady ticking a metronome for my racing heart. Ready? Everest appears beside me, handsome in his tailored tuxedo. The surgical precision in his hands now applied to straightening his bow tie. They're here, Nolan murmurs, approaching from the lobby. Front entrance, making quite the entrance for the cameras. I nod, oddly calm, just as we expected. 4 weeks of preparation for this moment. 4 weeks of gathering evidence, preparing statements, coordinating with the foundation board. What began as an ambush at the hospital has transformed into a battlefield of my choosing. Mrs. Beaumont, a photographer calls. Could we get a photo of you with your son before his speech? I smile, genuine warmth spreading through me as Everest places his arm around my shoulders. This is what Martin and Jocelyn could never understand, this bond forged through sleepless nights, diaper changes, and medical school applications. A relationship they discarded for $219 cash. The ballroom buzzes with anticipation as the event coordinator signals the 5-minute warning for our program. I catch a flash of platinum blonde hair near the entrance, Jocelyn, working the room with practiced charm, Martin at her side greeting potential investors. The calculated precision of their movements betrays their true purpose. I should go prepare, Everest says, squeezing my hand. See you on the other side, Mom. I watch him walk toward the stage, shoulders straight, head high, everything we've built together about to face its greatest test. The lights dim. A spotlight catches the podium as the foundation director welcomes everyone. I search the crowd, finding Martin and Jocelyn positioned strategically near the front, exactly where the cameras will catch their reactions. Tonight, we celebrate 25 years of the Agatha Beaumont Foundation, the director announces. And now, I'm honored to introduce Dr. Everest Beaumont, whose surgical innovations have saved 17 infants this year alone. Applause cascades through the room as Everest takes the stage, his confidence filling the space. I stand taller, pride swelling in my chest. Thank you all for supporting my grandmother's vision. He begins. Agatha Beaumont taught me that family isn't defined by bloodlines or birth certificates. His eyes find mine across the room, and I see the 17-year-old boy who once asked why he didn't have grandparents like his friends. Family is presence, not pedigree. Everest continues. It's who stands beside you when the world turns its back, who builds you up when others tear you down. I notice Martin's posture stiffen, Jocelyn's smile falter momentarily. My mother taught me that lesson, by example. Abandoned as a pregnant teenager, she rebuilt her life brick by brick, sacrifice by sacrifice. The crowd grows utterly silent. Tonight, before we continue, I'd like to share something my grandmother prepared before her passing, something she knew might be needed someday. The massive screen behind him flickers to life, and Agatha appears, filmed in her library 3 years before her death. My breath catches at the sight of her regal in her favorite blue armchair, silver hair swept up, eyes bright with determination. If you're watching this, she begins, her voice strong despite her age. It means Caitlin's biological parents have resurfaced now that I'm gone. A murmur ripples through the crowd. To the people who gave her 10 minutes to vanish from their lives, Agatha continues, leaning forward. I give you 10 minutes to vanish from hers. The young woman you abandoned became Arabella Beaumont, my daughter in every way that matters. She built a life you have no right to claim. My vision blurs with tears as Agatha's face grows solemn. I've prepared for this moment. Every document, every legal protection, every contingency. You'll find no weakness in the fortress I've built around my family. The screen shifts to display court documents, the no-contact order, the name change petition, the adult adoption papers. My life from 1996 to the present day is presented in this video. Each part appears with highlighted sections as Nolan steps forward. For the record, Nolan announces, his voice carrying across the stunned room. These documents establish the legal separation between Arabella Beaumont and her former identity. The adult adoption was finalized in 2000, severing all parental rights. I watch Martin's face darken as he realizes what's happening. This isn't the simple reconciliation narrative they plan to spin for the cameras. Additionally, Nolan continues, pressing a button on his remote. We have evidence of recent communications that reveal the true motivation behind this sudden reappearance. The speakers crackle with an audio recording, Tyler Quinn's voice unmistakable despite the years. 8% success fee is fair, he says. I know how to approach them. Once we establish the family connection and get some press coverage, the foundation will be wide open. Gasps ripple through the audience. A prominent hospital board member turns to stare openly at Martin and Jocelyn, his expression hardening. Caitlin! Martin calls out, voice steady despite the sweat now visible on his forehead. This is outrageous. We're your family. The room falls silent. Every eye turns toward me. 29 years of preparation for this moment. Agatha's lessons about standing tall when you're broken inside. Everest's hand finding mine as I step forward. I walk slowly to the microphone, feeling the weight of 500 gazes. The cameras pivot, recording every step. That name died the night you left me on the street? I say, my voice clear and strong. I am Arabella Agatha's daughter, Everest's mother. The truth of it resonates through me. solid as the foundation beneath my feet. You cast me out with $219. Now you want to claim what others built. What I built. Jocelyn steps forward, desperation breaking through her composure. We were wrong. We made a terrible mistake. Yes, I interrupt. You did. And tonight, that mistake finally catches up to you. I nod toward the back of the room, where a court officer steps forward, papers in hand. Martin and Jocelyn Gray. She announces clearly, I'm serving you with a temporary restraining order prohibiting contact with Arabella Beaumont, Dr. Everest Beaumont, or any employee of the Agatha Beaumont Foundation or Bluefinch Bakery Enterprises. The cameras flash frantically as the officer approaches them. Martin's shoulders sag almost imperceptibly, the first genuine reaction I've seen from him since they reappeared in my life. His calculated facade crumbles for just a moment before he regains control, taking the papers with a trembling hand. This is a misunderstanding, he begins, but his voice lacks conviction. The foundation director steps forward. I believe it would be best if you left now, Mr. and Mrs. Gray. Two security guards materialize beside them, not forceful, but unmistakably present. The room watches in hushed fascination as Martin straightens his tie one last time, a lifetime of maintaining appearances even in defeat. This isn't over, he murmurs, but the threat sounds hollow even to my ears. As they're escorted toward the exit, something shifts in the atmosphere. One person begins to applaud, then another, until the entire ballroom erupts. I stand stunned as the ovation washes over me, years of silent validation finally given voice. Everest returns to my side, his arm solid around my shoulders. She's watching, he whispers, eyes bright with tears. I know grandmother is watching over you. Nolan approaches, satisfaction evident in his measured smile. 29 years of documentation just paid off. The foundation director returns to the microphone, restoring order to the room. Mrs. Beaumont, would you care to address our guests? I step forward, feeling lighter than I have in weeks. The restraining order doesn't just protect me from them, it frees me from the specter of their return that has haunted me since Agatha's death. Tonight marks not just a continuation of Agatha's legacy, I begin, but an expansion. I'm pleased to announce the Agatha Beaumont Fellowship for Young Mothers will double its capacity next year. The applause resumes, even louder than before. Everyone deserves a second chance. I continue, the words rising from the deepest part of me. Everyone deserves the opportunity to become who they're truly meant to be. As I look out across the sea of faces, supporters, not judges, I finally understand what Agatha tried to tell me all those years ago. She hadn't just given me shelter. She'd given me the blueprint for building my own fortress, brick by brick, relationship by relationship. The Grays couldn't tear it down because they never understood what made it strong. Not money or social position, but the unshakable foundation of chosen family. Behind me, the screen displays the foundation's new expansion plans. 18 rooms for young mothers and their children, on-site childcare, educational opportunities. A legacy built from the ashes of abandonment. To new beginnings, I say, raising a glass. 500 voices echo. To new beginnings. The name they erased no longer matters. The name I chose, the life I built, stands unshaken. 6 months after the gala, I stand at the window of my office overlooking Seattle's downtown skyline. The morning sun catches on the brass plaque beside my door, Arabella Beaumont, CEO. No hesitation follows when I read it now. No phantom echo of Caitlin whispers in my mind. The Seattle Times business section lies open on my desk. Gray & Fox Holdings stock continues downward spiral, 28% loss, since Beaumont Foundation Gala. I don't feel the vengeful satisfaction I once imagined. Instead, a calm certainty washes over me. Justice doesn't always arrive with thunderclaps. Sometimes it comes in quarterly reports and SEC investigations. My phone buzzes with a text from Everest. Associate Chief Resident announcement just posted. Dinner tonight to celebrate? I smile, typing back. Absolutely. Bring that Cabernet we've been saving. The transformation these past months startles me sometimes. I sleep through the night now, no longer jolting awake at 3 a.m., wondering if Martin and Jocelyn might appear unannounced. Decisions come easier, without the second guessing that once plagued me. The board approved our expansion plans for Bluefinch Bakery. Our 4th location breaks ground next month. Nolan knocks once before entering, legal folders tucked under his arm. Since agreeing to become the foundation's permanent legal counsel, he's traded his formal suits for smart casual wear, the change reflecting our deepened trust. Tyler Quinn's bankruptcy fraud investigation is proceeding, he says, settling into the chair across from me. The prosecutor found the contract promising him that 8% success fee for orchestrating your reunion. They're calling it evidence of financial conspiracy. And my parents? The word no longer burns my throat, maintaining a strategic distance. The restraining order ensures they can't approach you, Everest, or any foundation property. I nod, remembering how the gala audience gasped when the security team escorted them out. The community chose sides that night, and the foundation donations increased 60% in the weeks that followed. I almost lost everything Agatha built for us, I say, touching her watch on my wrist. But you didn't, Nolan reminds me. You protected it, just as she protected you. The morning staff meeting flows with an ease unimaginable 6 months ago. I laugh genuinely when our marketing director suggests blue Finch cookies as holiday gifts. The tension that once lived between my shoulder blades has dissolved, replaced by a steady confidence. The Beaumont house renovations are complete, I tell the team. All 18 rooms ready for occupancy. Our first 6 young mothers move in next month. Heads nod around the table. This extension of Agatha's vision, creating temporary housing for young single mothers, while they complete education or job training, feels right. The perfect evolution of her legacy. After the meeting, I drive to Seattle General for the hospital board lunch. The same building where Martin and Jocelyn ambushed me now feels like friendly territory. Nurses greet me by name Arabella, always Arabella, as I pass through corridors toward the administrative wing. The chief of surgery shakes my hand warmly. Your son's surgical residents worship him, Mrs. Beaumont. That cardiac procedure he pioneered is being taught in 3 other teaching hospitals now. He gets his dedication from his grandmother, I reply, no longer feeling the need to justify our family connections. Later that afternoon, I walk through downtown, past the park where I once slept on a bench at 17, pregnant and abandoned. The memories have lost their poison. They're just part of my history now, not wounds that reopen with each remembering. I notice her immediately, a young woman sitting on that same bench, a sleeping infant bundled against her chest, a small backpack beside her. Tears track silently down her face as she stares at nothing. Excuse me, I say, sitting beside her. Are you all right? She startles, wiping her cheeks quickly. I'm fine. The defensive tone is one I recognize, having used it myself decades ago. I was right where you are once, I tell her, nodding to the sleeping baby. 17, pregnant, nowhere to go. Her eyes widen slightly, suspicion battling with desperate hope. Everyone deserves a second chance to become who they're meant to be. I continue, hearing Agatha's words flow through me. The Agatha Beaumont Foundation has a residence program. 18 rooms, on-site childcare while you finish school or job training. I don't have money for rent, she says, chin lifting slightly. The foundation covers it. I reach into my purse for my business card. 3 families are already housed through our support program. 15 scholarships available annually. She takes the card, reading, Arabella Beaumont, CEO, with trembling fingers. Why would you help me? You don't even know me. Because 29 years ago, someone helped me when I sat right here, I answer. She told me my name didn't have to define my future. That evening, Everest, Nolan, and I sit around Agatha's dining table, wine glasses reflecting candlelight. The house feels warm with memories not just of Agatha, but of the life we've built in her absence. To Associate Chief Resident, Nolan raises his glass toward Everest. And to Blue Finch Bakery's expansion, Everest counters. To family, I say simply, the one we choose, the one that stays. Later, after they've gone to bed, I stand in Agatha's study, running my fingers over the spines of her books. The moonlight catches on a framed photo, 17-year-old me holding newborn Everest, Agatha's arm around my shoulders. When I changed my name, I whisper to her memory, I didn't just change what people called me, I claimed who I truly was meant to be. Outside, the city lights twinkle like promises. The Beaumont Foundation scholarship applications for next year's program sit on my desk, 15 opportunities for young women to rename their futures. Tomorrow I'll review them, continuing what Agatha started. But tonight, I simply stand in the quiet house, feeling the weight of both names, Caitlin Gray, the abandoned girl I once was, and Arabella Beaumont, the woman I became. Both are part of me now, Neither defines me completely. I am who I choose to be. And that, finally, is enough.